My name is Catherine. I am an OpenSciEd teacher, facilitator, and writer. And in this video, we're going to get an overview of Lesson 1 of our very first unit in the physics course, the P.1 electricity unit. In this video and the others that follow, we'll spend some time overviewing each lesson by reviewing at a glance what happens each day, highlighting some key moments and sense-making opportunities for students, as well as give you some material management and other tips and tricks. So let's dive in here to Lesson 1. This is a 3-day anchoring phenomenon routine lesson. And Lesson 1 of all units, including this first one, is an anchoring phenomenon routine. And we'll get the hang of what this looks like as we become more familiar over time with the OpenSciEd materials. Again, this is 3 days, that's 3 45-minute class periods, and there won't be any additional prep for you as there aren't any hands-on investigations just yet in this first lesson. So you'll just need to do your typical material management for students and your copies and set everything up. So in this first lesson, as I mentioned, this is an anchoring phenomenon routine lesson. And in anchoring phenomenon routines, there are 4 key elements or 4 key sense-making opportunities that students will engage in over the course of these 3 class period days. So let's take a look at this first key sense-making loop here in day 1, where students have the opportunity to explore the 2021 Texas energy crisis phenomenon that will serve as our anchoring phenomenon for this first unit. Students do this by reading some articles and they look at some data. And then from here, we move into day 2 where we have our second key opportunity. And this is our second element of the anchoring phenomenon routine where students think about what other things might be related, what other phenomenon or stories in the news or experiences have that might be related to the one that we're discussing. The next key sense-making loop here occurs again in day 2 with our third element of the anchoring phenomenon routine, where students try to make sense of this phenomenon by making both individual and class consensus models. And then lastly, in day 3, our sense-making really comes to play when students set themselves up for the rest of the unit by brainstorming some questions and next steps that we could take to learn more. So throughout this process here in Lesson 1 of our P1 unit, students figure out that there are several things that we as a class agree that we think are important if we're going to understand how energy transfers. And in the case of Texas, how energy did not transfer the way it was supposed to. And through that, we identify these components, we name them as subsystems. We think that there's a source, there's something that would transport or distribute energy from that source to a third subsystem of our community members or our users. And that if there's a problem in any of these subsystem areas, that this could be how we get a power outage. So let's look at these key moments that I highlighted a little bit more carefully. Again, the first one is going to come here in part 2 of day 1, where students really get an introduction to this 2021 Texas energy crisis phenomenon by reading some newspaper articles. We ask students if they've heard about this or if they've heard about something like it, and then we say, well, let's get some more information. And so students are assigned as individuals 1 of 6 articles for this jigsaw. And articles 2 and 6 are going to be the most accessible. So keep your students' reading levels in mind when assigning these out. And articles 3 and 4 are going to be the most challenging. And those are noted in the teacher guide. And so after students read articles as individuals, they have the opportunity to discuss their article with others who read the same article. Make sure that, do I understand what article 3 was saying? And then after that, students mix up and they hear from the other 5 articles in a mixed article group where they're responsible for getting information from others as well as telling others about the information in their article. From here, we start to look at some data. We realize that there's some contradictory information in some of these articles in terms of what happened when our articles were from different days. There's a little bit of a blame game being played in some of these articles as to what caused this blackout. So we decide to look at some data and we create some noticings and wonderings, again, as individuals and as a whole class. And some things that we're noticing is that across Texas, not everyone and not everywhere lost power. And even in places that they did lose power, there could be a mix. Like not all of these are either 0 or 100. There's these little shades of gray, if you will, in between. And that students will notice that it was particularly worse in the southeast area of Texas near the Gulf. And from this, students are wondering things about, well, why were there so few outages in the Northwest and so many in the Southeast? Was it because of this winter storm that our articles mentioned were happening at the same time as this power outage? And were other places other than Texas affected? You're going to get a variety of questions, but these are some of the key ones that you would want to listen for and highlight from your students. From here, moving into part 5, which happens on day 2, students identify some related phenomenon based upon some stories that they might have gathered as home learning the night before. And they brainstorm power outage phenomenon that might have happened not because of a storm or a winter storm, like what we know so far about in Texas. And we developed a shared list as a class of these related phenomenon. And this seems maybe like a silly step, or, obviously there could be a variety of things that cause a blackout, and students are going to name all these types of storms. But this is a really important step to help students kind of get ready to think through how energy is transferring, how it's supposed to transfer, and how it doesn't transfer in the course of a blackout. So as I mentioned, this is all in preparation of our initial consensus model, and this will be the first time that we come together in a scientist circle. And when we say scientist circle, this is an opportunity for students to get out of their seats, to physically sit in a circle or stand in a circle so that we all can see each other and change that power dynamic of me as the teacher up front talking to students to us together collaborating as equals. And students in this part develop record of what we agree on or are unsure about based on our individual models and a gallery walk that we had done earlier to look for patterns among our individual models. And after you have a consensus model up on your poster paper, and this image is in the teacher guide, you with your class identify some subsystems on how energy transfers between all of these different components in our model. And again, we're looking for subsystems here like we have power sources. We have a transportation or distribution part. I don't maybe know what these things are, but we agree that it needs to be there. And then lastly, we'll end with that energy getting to those who are trying to use it in our community. This is also a step where you are introducing the progress tracker to students for the first time, and they make record of our class consensus model in that progress tracker. Moving into part 10, which is now occurring on day 3 of the lesson. This is our next component of our anchoring phenomenon routine, where students are creating questions that will drive our learning for the unit. So again, we make a scientist circle here, and students share some questions that they wrote down on sticky notes about the phenomenon that we have been discussing. And we go through a protocol that's in your slides about sharing out our questions, reading them out loud together, as well as listening to the questions of others and trying to look for patterns so that we can organize our questions into similar categories. So we're looking to say, oh, I have a question about a power source. Oh, I have one over here too. Or I have something different. I have one about the storm. Let me make a section of questions about the storm. There's no wrong way to do your driving question board. There's no wrong questions for students to ask here. There's nothing that we definitely want to have from students or must have, or we're not grading them on certain kinds of questions. Is this testable or not? We just want them to get some ideas on the table and again, look for some patterns in our questions. After all students have their questions up on the board, we as a class sort of name our driving question board. And there's some suggestions in the teacher guide for what that name could be. But essentially we realize, wow, we have all of these questions that are specific to Texas, but maybe we don't live in Texas. So how could this information be useful for us in our community? And so the goal of our time together is to not just answer specific questions about Texas, but also think about how this doesn't happen to us, or how we can improve our community's grid so that this crisis doesn't affect us in our area of the world. And so there's some questions that you would then write at the top of your driving question board, again, after you make one. And then lastly here, students, now that we have all these questions, we're given an opportunity to think about what are some ways we can seek answers to our questions. And again, we're not looking here for students to develop a testable hypothesis or to come up with a procedure for a lab. Rather, we're looking for students to generate some ideas regarding information or data that could help us explain the patterns in the data we saw and help us answer some of the questions that we have. This is also a great opportunity to get ideas on how could we figure out like why this information would be useful in preventing this from happening again or helping me figure out what my community needs to do so that this doesn't happen to us. And so where we go from here at the end of lesson 1 is that we have all of these questions, we have all of this information that we're wondering, and we need a way to start investigating. And so let's start investigating by taking a look at the electrical structures that are around us. As again, we knew that there were some components that mattered in our model, but it was really hard for us to identify what they are. So for home learning, we take some pictures of what we think the electrical grid in the community around us looks like, and we bring that back. So as we close out, I just want to go over a couple of quick material management tips and tricks for us. And that is really just to remember lesson 1 sets up the learning for the entire unit. And this helps us really articulate to students our expectations on how we do science in an OpenSciEd classroom. And a couple of components of this in the slides that I've talked about previously are important. That consensus model, labeling the subsystems, because that will come up later in future lessons, naming the driving question board with a title to help us remember our purpose, as well as setting those community agreements so that we can build our culture together. There are some terms that we encounter with students that we might want to add to our glossary in this first lesson. Really, grid and subsystem are the two main ones that we make sense of together as we build the initial consensus model. Other words like electricity, energy, infrastructure, these are things that come up, but we don't quite have enough time yet to grapple with what they mean. So we're just encountering them at this time, and we'll build some better understanding as the unit progresses. And then lastly, students create their progress tracker for the first time in this lesson, and they'll keep that in their binders. And then the posters that you make in this lesson, you want to save for future lessons. In particular, your driving question board, your notices and wonders, and your consensus model so that you can refer to them as you know more. And then your community agreements are going to be something that you want to keep a hold of as well so that you can build upon them as time together progresses. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're excited to get this first unit started, and we'll see you next time.